Hi, everyone. So Steve and I are here again today. And I was thinking to sit and hopefully bring a little light and something more helpful or tangible for times that we are either struggling or caught up. So I want to ask you a question, Steve. What is helpful for you when you get caught up? And when we say caught up, what do we mean by that?
That's a very good question. First of all, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure, because I didn't want to get caught up in my thinking that you couldn't hear me okay.
Oh.
That's, I guess, what we're pointing to is just actually checking in on ourselves. I think we have an amazing feedback system in the consciousness of who we are. And that gives us a feeling. And I know if I wouldn't have checked that, somewhere along the line, this little thought would have, oh, she can't hear you. I wonder if people can hear you. And this is I don't know what the voice would have said, but something along those lines would have happened. But what I found is really helpful is to see that we innocently have misunderstood the role of thought. And so what that means is that we are the thinker of all our experiences. And in that experience, we determine good or bad, or are like, I don't want. And we define them in the moment. In the moment we define them, we're going through a filing system of old habitual thinking and clouding our present day moment. So we're becoming flooded with the feelings of the past and trying to make sense of our world now with this feeling of overwhelmed, insecurity, fear, those kind of thoughts that we might put behind. But what I found really helpful is to realize that when we have a thought, just because we're thinking it, we don't have to believe it. So when we think a thought, we don't have to believe it. It's just something that's happening. And when we don't believe it, it creates like a space. We begin to see the spaces in our thinking, whether our thinking sounds a little bit like as if we're constantly just saying things. But there is a feeling within a thought. And that feeling allows us to be more in the moment, more present to ourselves, no matter whether all that thinking is going on or not. It allows us to become more present to the moment. And it might take the sting or the energy away from what happened or what will happen or what needs to happen, and just allows ourselves to have the breath of the moment. And from there, we get to see that we are the thinker. Now, it doesn't mean that whatever we've got lost in our thinking about doesn't need to be sorted. But if we see that if our thinking is off base, that might not be the best time to go into action or have a reaction or believe the reaction of our thinking. And when we do that, I believe we get the gift of thought, which allows us to be in the moment. And perhaps just for a split second, we get to see that what we're scaring ourselves about is not actually happening right now. It's the thinking we're doing about it. It's scaring us. And again, just because you think in that thought, you don't have to believe it. And then what that does is, even if it's just a little bit of the chink in the armor, or you and I were talking just before we come on about walls, great big walls. And I was saying it's like, it's interesting. Sometimes with the experiences of life, we've created such a skyscraper of a wall, each brick being a thought, and each thought feeling it's solid, it's real. And we can't see over it. We can't see under it. The tallest ladder will not get us to the top to look over it either. So it seems very daunting at times. But what we don't understand is, like, we can walk around the side of it because it's not attached. Our thinking looks like it's solid, it's attached. But it's only the thinking that we're doing in the moment that we're scaring ourselves with from thoughts of the past, or perhaps the projection. And when we see our thoughts alike, I love standing watching the ocean or watching a river. And we're very lucky where we live, we're on the Norfolk Broad, so there's lots of beautiful rivers and boats and yachts go up and down here. And every time we go down past the river, we never see the same boat or the same piece of river twice. Because the river is continually moving. Our thoughts can be likened to a river. They're constantly moving, they're constantly flowing. But to us and our humanists look very solid. But if we can just see for a moment that this too shall pass, and that the nature allows me to flow in the moment is God-given. And that moment allows us to see the divine nature of who we are, the creator of the experience, the spiritual nature. And to me, spiritual is movement, it's energy, it's love. And then we begin to see more of an invitation to the moment. Rather than the moment's having me, I'm stuck in thought, I'm lost, we get to see that perhaps this moment is a gift, an invitation. And it might not feel like it, but let's just say it's an invitation to the moment. And really, the moment is all we ever have, moment to moment. The rest is just a projection of our thinking, and that's personal. But I'm talking about a universal love here. I'm talking about an energy. It is the wisest part of who we are, which means that we can put down the struggle against us, against life, and think that in this moment, I can be the sacred observer. And that moment, I really do believe that it's helpful to see that it's a God-given moment. It's a moment it's not been given before. So if we're lost in our thinking, we're personal, we're habitual. That's not neutral. And I just think in that moment, it brings us back to the breath. And we actually see that we're not running the show. We're not the ones in control. But yet we're part of this wise wisdom that is going to love us and nurture us and guide us through all those experiences. So when we see the wisdom within, it's like standing in the side of the river and being the observer. And we get to see, oh gosh, I got lost there for a moment, rather than, oh my God, I'm lost. Why did I do that? We get to be more gentle and more kinder with ourselves. And seeing that we are the thinker of all our experiences allows us to see. It's like going to watch a movie and sitting in the front seat. We get to see it firsthand. And it doesn't matter if it's an empty movie hall, it doesn't matter where we sit, we get to see it slightly different. But we get to feel the experience and when we're off base. And if thought creates feeling, our feelings, consciousness are letting us know you're feeling the way you are because you're believing you're thinking. And if there's not a good feeling there, then maybe you're not having helpful thoughts. That sounded so simple to me at the beginning when I heard things like this, because to me, I think we're taught it's got to be more difficult than that. And so we believe it because we see other people struggle. But when we all see that just innocently, we do because we've maybe copied others, or we just think that's what we have to do. But what we're doing on these calls is just asking people to be open to the lightness of their being, to experiencing life maybe like never before, becoming your own best friend. So that's what I see.
Now, listening, just falling into this and thought of like, oh, what do you for dinner? And it's like, I pull myself back to here. It's like, oh, I'm not here. There was this image that came to me from you talking about the river. You know, because if I'm watching the river and it's flowing at gallons and gallons of movement, and if I have in my personal, right, if I'm having unhealthy thinking or I'm caught up, it's known. It's already that bucket. It's already known. It's like I have this little bucket of water. I'm standing by this is what's alive for me right now, and I don't know what to do with this bucket. But the image that came, it was like, oh, I can throw that back into the river, and just something else will come. And to me, that's like I don't have to worry what is going to come, because if there's unhelpful thinking and I am not attached to it, and I allow myself to be in that experience because that's what I created, and I'm okay with being in this uncomfortable thing, this sensation, this feeling that I had right now, I could just wait along the river and something new will come. Something helpful will come. Wisdom shows up. So if I'm sitting in an uncomfortable feeling and I'm caught up, and I love what you said about the you know, like what I heard was like my body's it lets me know I'm having unhelpful thinking, and knowing that I can and there's nothing I have to do about that. Just allow that to move along, like you said, spiritual nature. Brings a lot of hope, and hopefully something helpful to know if that's really what's going on. I don't have to myself. I don't have to fix myself. I can just stop. The experience will belong, and something else will emerge, and I can take that in. Yeah.
I love that. And in this moments of just being open to actually listening differently. So rather than kind of listening to what you're saying to respond, listening for that feeling of where you're saying it from. There's the nature that we're pointing to. There's the mental health. And what jumped out to me there was innocently, with our thinking, all we're trying to do is sort out the attachment to where we think life has gone wrong. And for some, that looks like it can take a lifetime, because we'll always find, with our ego mind, with our conceptual understandings and our belief systems, there will always be something new for us to find. And we'll still find really good experiences through there. But what we're pointing to is just like, and also I had a vision of standing looking at the river that runs through the village where we are. And through the winter when it was heavy rain, and saying to Tony, oh, that river's getting high. And then I just walked on. I didn't carry the story on as in, oh, what happens if it bursts the bank and it floods the village and we're on top of the village, so it wouldn't affect us. But what I'm saying is there's so many times we add extra information into a story that doesn't need to happen. We scare ourselves so many times when it doesn't need to happen. And it's the invitation that the moment gives you to see that. And through these calls, what I see that we're pointing to is just an invitation to be open to perhaps this is true for you too. If you don't want to believe any of it, then just see when you're in a low state of mind, how that feels. And if you want to live there, then that's your experience to live there. But perhaps when you see that there is a river of thought, of new thought flowing every moment, bringing you the experience of neutrality, of peace of mind, of an open mind. It's something that's inbuilt to the system of who we are. And if that's God-given, then there's nothing we need to do to improve that. We have everything inside of us to allow us to be the best experience, to meet the moment the best that we can. So I know that when I look at my mental health now, I know what direction to look. And it doesn't mean like everything just changes immediately, but it takes the sting of my thinking out. And I know that at some point, my thinking will shift, because that's how we're designed. And if it doesn't shift, it's because I'm invested in the story and I'm lost in my thinking and I've added other stories to it. Even that's helpful, as uncomfortable as that can feel sometimes. It's helpful to know what we do to ourselves innocently. That takes maybe the hook out of the attachment that you were pointing to. That takes the attention away from the attachment just for a split second. And that split second is where the lightness of being shines through. And I don't think God created us to suffer. I truly believe the energy of all things created us to be ambassadors of love. To see the love and the goodness and the lightness in each other. And I think when we more see that, then I really see your health. Doesn't mean that I deny whatever else you're going through. But it means that I see the same energy of love inside of you that I know is inside of me, and vice versa. And that's a much more beautiful experience of truth, of mental health, of the simplicity of nature.
It sounds to me like we're kind of saying to look to mental health from somewhere new, from somewhere clear. The only way we could look at it through something clear and something new is without all the ideas we already have on it. So that is basically the invitation, is to sit and see if there's something that I'm noticing about myself. Am I hearing something new? Is there someone somewhere else to look that I wasn't looking before? Because I cannot find my peace from upset, from mix up, from being caught up, from pressure. I'm looking away to see it somewhere else, somewhere new. Thank you, Steve. I think that was really helpful. And I'm looking forward for our next.
Me too. And thank you. There's always something to help us understand who we are.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be difficult conversations. So thank you.
Thank you. Hope you all have a beautiful day, and we're looking forward to hear if you have any other questions or directions that you'd like us to go in. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye now.